Summary of tests of Torah Ohr. Now we're talking about how sometimes we get stuck in a state of spiritual pregnancy and have difficulty giving birth, and that is when we can't get either the ideas that we meditate in our mind, we can't bring them down through our neck into our heart. There's a blockage and it's not coming out and coming down. And similarly with like a spiritual birth, that something is stuck in a concealed state and can't come down to be revealed. So what brings it out? So it's chachma of Torah, in particular Torah שבכתב, that when we learn Torah, the written Torah, so we're calling out to Hashem and revealing Hashem. Now in chachma, we just have the flash of the idea, and therefore in Torah שבכתב, what's important is the exact letters, but they're not developed or explained, and therefore we stay with just the letters of Torah, and we don't expand on it. Whereas with Torah שבעל, with the oral Torah, there's always constant expansion. So with the written Torah, there's the letters, and each one is just a letter on one hand, but on the other hand, each one represents a lot. That the Yud represents concealment of light, the Vav represents a downward flow of Hashem's light, and most of the letters are made up of these Yuds and Vavs, like Aleph is Yud at the top, a Vav in the middle, and Yud at the bottom represents Chachma at the top, a Vav bringing Hashem's light down, and then another Chachma at the bottom, which is the practical Chachma within Malchus. And that Chachma within Malchus is Torah שבעל, the oral Torah, whereas the Chachma at the top of the Aleph is the written Torah. And we find other letters like a gimel is the giver, it's got a vav going down, and then at the bottom a yud, which is the core of what it's giving over. Then we have daled, which is the receiver, and each letter has its own content. So that's all the way it is in Torah שבכתב. In Torah שבכתב, it's hard to see beyond the garment of over the Torah. So we read stories about Lavan and all the different characters and Bilam. But what is the meaning? The kings of Esav, 8 kings before the Jewish people have their first king. What's the meaning? We only get the garment, the basic storyline. The body of Torah is the halachas. But then what about the soul of Torah and the soul of the soul, the spiritual side, and the depth of Torah? So that could be difficult to get, but we know it's there. And the strangeness of the stories, and why with the kings of Esav, some of them it mentions the city from which they reigned, other ones it doesn't mention the city. With the last one it mentions his wife as well. It's very hard to understand unless we break through into the mysteries of how Kabbalah explains the psukim there. So because Torah שבכתב is always wrapped in mysteries, therefore we can't add anything. It's just these exact letters. Whereas Torah שבעל, we understand and we develop, and it's constantly growing. And in that way, it's like the mother. Torah שבעל is the mother that develops the baby, whereas Torah שבכתב is the written Torah. It's just the initiation, and then that's it. The development's all with Torah שבעל. And therefore Torah שבעל is connected to Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is called Eretz Tzvi. One of the meanings of that, the land of the deer. And the Gemara says that the deer, once you take off the skin, you can never put it back. So it's similar to Torah שבעל, which has so much depth and details, and once you've taken off the skin, so you can't put it back, meaning that it's you can never fit it back into its box, so to speak. It's always too big, and that's the quality of Bina as opposed to Chachma. And Bina can do this because of Bina's source in the Kotzer Shayod, the crown above the Yod, which is Keser, and therefore it's capable of developing a lot further than what Chachma can. Now, the other feminine sphere besides Bina is Malchus. And Malchus, Torah שבעל is connected to both Bina and especially to Malchus. Like it says in Pasach Elio, that Malchus is Peh Torah שבעל, Karin Allah. That we call it the Peh Torah שבעל, the mouth of Torah שבעל. Malchus is different from all other spheres. That with all other spheres, the keli of the sphere, the vessel, the container of the sphere is basically permanent as it is. That's how it stays. Whereas with Malchus, it has growth. It gets bigger, it gets smaller. There's always change depending on what Malchus is receiving from. It develops in different ways, and it doesn't have its own style. It's just based on what it receives, and therefore it's always different. Malchus also, it's on one hand the lowest, on the other hand the highest. So Malchus has this great ability of change, unlike the other spheres that are basically, especially the kalim, the vessels of the other spheres are basically permanent. So this is like Torah Ohr, which is constantly growing in Eretz Yisrael, which is called Eretz Tova Rechava, a broad land, that idea of growth. So although when we learn Torah שבכתב, so that brings to simcha, brings to joy, we're connecting to Hashem and bliss and revelation, that to give birth spiritually. But once that happens, even higher level is Torah Ohr, where now it's expansive and it's unlimited. It's connected. This Bina connects to the unlimited. And another advantage is in Torah שבכתב, in the written Torah, you don't know exactly what Hashem wants. And it's specifically in the oral Torah that what Hashem wants becomes clarified to us. Although the oral Torah speaks about physical things, agriculture, business, disputes, etc., so still it comes from a high place. And that's why it says, "V'hevesi, I'll take you to Eretz Yisrael," Hashem says, to the place Hashem Nasasis Yodi, where I lifted my hand, which represents lifting the hand which is below the head, but lifting it above the head, and to the land I promised to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, because Torah שבכתב brings us to love and excitement, and joy, bliss. So that connects to the avos that represent the three primary emotions, whereas V'hevesi, I'll take you to Eretz Yisrael, that represents not the avos, but the beyond. And like the Maimon said before, represents Moshe, who is just a vessel for Hashem's light to shine through. And therefore is connected to Keser, the crown above the head. And so we have to go through Yetzias Mitzrayim, that we're sometimes stuck in Egypt, where this revelation of Hashem and love of Hashem can't come out. Then the Exodus is like the giving birth, or like similarly when the intellect can come through to the emotions, and then that causes simcha, and that's connected to Torah שבכתב, which brings to the revelation. But there and then after the birth, then all the other the blood funnels out, which represents all klippa and all foreign thoughts all coming out. And then we go to Eretz Yisrael, which represents Torah Ohr, which is where Hashem can just shine through us. And this process repeats itself each day. And therefore, we have each day we have this opportunity to first have Yetzias Mitzrayim every day. B'chol Dovid and b'chol yom yom, we have to imagine Yetzias Mitzrayim and remember Mitzrayim every day, and then not only get out of Egypt, but then get to Eretz Yisrael, get to the expanding lands, the Torah Ohr, where we can fulfill and let Hashem's desire, Hashem's Ratzon shine through us.